All right, welcome to the first conference win episode of the Red and White podcast. I was really pissed off. I was in a class all day Saturday and couldn't actually watch. I kept up play-by-play the first quarter, and then I figured there was no real reason to. So what exactly happened? Did it play out as it looked on my phone?
So first of all, what class were you in all day?
I was in my concealed carry class.
Oh, watch out, people. He's coming in hot.
That's right. I just got a lot of people to turn this off because now I'm a redneck hick, but what are you going to do?
Now you are?
Yeah, well, that's a good point, too, yeah. Now there's criminal proof, yeah.
That's right. Wake recap. We won. First quarter was surprisingly eventful for us. They came out and just tore the doors off of it. Wake looked like they were not ready for anything. And that's a bit surprising because I know it's Wake Forest, but Wake Forest has played all right all year. But they couldn't stop us. It was unreal, to be honest. Every time we touched the ball, it looked like we were going to score, and for the most part, we did. I don't know what the numbers are, but I don't think we punted maybe once in that first quarter, if at all. Days broke a long run. Jacoby hit a long deep ball for the first time, and I think everybody freaked out. Trowell got into the act. He kind of saved Jacoby on a play. I think it was kind of a busted play, and he rolled out, and he rolled with Jacoby. Jacoby found him, and he just ran down the sidelines, beat everybody down it. Kind of showed what everybody thought he would. Thought he was. He could catch and he can run. And that was it. After that, it just slowed down. I feel like they took their foot off the gas, but if you look at it, they were still trying to make the plays. They were still trying to, throw some deep balls, but they just, they weren't connecting. I think a couple times there was some, a couple bad passes, or maybe just one missed block, and Days have scampered for another 80-yard touchdown. So there was a little bit of cruise controlling, which I don't like to see. I wanted us to beat them by 50, but going to Winston-Salem and winning for the first time in 10 years, I'll take that. So I'm happy with it. It was just uneventful after the first quarter, so you didn't miss a whole lot.
Yeah, I watched. It's as good as I could, and I was sitting and laughing at just the speed of which we scored. And we talked about it last week that I was pretty sure we would open the playbook, and it looks like we did the first quarter. I wish I could have seen it, but from everything I could tell, you don't plan on handing the ball off and it going, 70 yards, but when the quarterback hits the deep ball, it opens that up a little bit. So going back and looking at the season, though, I'm suddenly okay with losing to Louisville and Virginia Tech. And everybody's like, oh, no, don't do that. Well, it's pretty simple. There's progress. If you look at Doran's first year, when did he get his first conference win? Never. Yeah. Okay. Last year, his second year, first conference win, fifth game of the conference season. This year, first win, third game. Not just any game, but on the road at Wake Forest. So there's obvious. The problem, our whole fan base, or the majority of it, flips out at the smallest thing. There's a lot of reasons for that. Unrealistic expectations. If you thought we were going to win our division this year, you had unrealistic expectations. It's a guy in his third year building a program. It's not going to happen when it's the tougher division in the conference. It's disappointment. Yeah, we're used to it, so we automatically assume that, well, this year is going to go the same way as all the others, but that's not the case. The guy, speaking of Coach Doran, has made progress every year. My buddy texted me, and I couldn't believe it, but that first quarter, State had 4 plays over 50 yards in the first quarter. That was the most by any team in over 10 years.
Any State team?
Any team.
Wow. I feel like Baylor beats that on a weekly basis, but maybe not.
It's just, you would think so, but 4 over 50 in one quarter is crazy, Somebody will come back and tell me I'm wrong, but that's unreal. there's obvious progress. State fans need to chill out. This season is not a failure. The program is not going in the wrong direction. That's where I was going with this.
It's hard for me. I agree with everything you're saying, and I'm not going to argue it at all. But from a state fan standpoint, I understand why everybody gets so worked up. Right? They see the recruiting class, they get so excited about guys coming in, and we're going to be able to do this. And we said it last week. Football programs like driving a barge, man. It takes a long time to turn that thing around. And I hate to admit it, but we've sucked for so long that you got to give him his chances, and there is obvious progress.
Yeah.
While I'm not 100% happy with everything, I think they're getting better, and the program as a whole is probably in a position it hasn't been in a long time. It's hard for people to have patience, especially this day and age. Nate Irving said last week, everybody just wants it now. Everybody just wants to. There is no patience anymore. It's just how it is. But I think for us, we've just been so bad for so long as a program, and I hate to admit it, and I don't even want to say it, but it's true. And it takes a long time to get there. But I think Doran's doing the right thing. He's recruiting well. He's got the program on the right direction. I'm still not okay with us losing to Louisville and VT because I think we're on par with those teams. But it is what it is at this point. And that was again me being excited, thinking we could win those games. But I'm with you. I like where this is going. It's just hard to swallow slow progress, and I think that's what everybody's having the problem with.
Yeah, instant gratification. Well,
right.
Like we talked last week too. We're not Michigan,
Right.
We don't have the cupboard sitting full of players. Brady Hoke couldn't coach, but he could recruit. So get a decent coach in, and look what happens. This is really. There was a little bit last year, but this is the first year there's been some competition within the team, like real competition.
Yeah, I agree. There's competition at every position,
and that's what's gonna. I mean, this is his first year with that, so you can't snap to these horrible judgments. And I realize it was Wake Forest, big deal. That seems to be the case, but look at the last time we won there.
So look at the Wake Forest. If people want to say, hey, this is Wake Forest, all right, Wake Forest played Florida State close to the end of the game. It was 24-16. Florida State scored 24 points on them the entire game. We scored it in the first quarter. We beat that. Boston College, same thing. I don't even know if they won that game. It was a close game, whatever. They played them tough. Wake is playing people tough. Clawson's a good coach as well. I believe in him. So you can't just look at it and say, oh, it's Wake, they suck. Which they're not great, but they're better than people are giving them credit for. And they're gonna turn around. They're gonna be in the middle of the pack soon. And that's gonna be an improvement.
Yeah. And if I had to break down the one real problem with this team, you look Louisville, we shouldn't have lost, but we just played bad. They beat us,
Right.
So VT, we come out, score I think went up 10-0, is that right?
Yeah, I think it was 10-0.
And then took our foot off the gas.
Yeah.
This past week, huge first quarter, might have tried, but you don't dominate a quarter like that and then can't do anything the rest of the game unless you don't mentally take your foot off the gas. And that's the sign of a young team. And that's only going to change with games, reps,
Yeah, I agree. I think that's what it is. I think it's a sign of youth. And like you said, the competition's there. We got guys that are redshirt freshmen, pushing for playing time in the secondary, and the running backs, our backup running backs, true freshmen. So there's depth and competition in places all over the place that we hadn't had before. It's just going to take time for those guys, even if they are better players, to grasp the whole thing, to understand it. The old analogy everybody says is for the game to slow down, and it makes sense. It just takes time. I think reasonably you need 5 years in a football program to understand the direction it's going.
Yeah.
And I think in 5 years, what is that? That'll be 2017. Jalen's going to be, McClendon's going to be a redshirt junior. And you got to think about the guys he's going to have around on the defensive line. It's going to be ridiculous. He's going to have, Hines and Gillespie and Frazier and everybody. That team should be very good in 2017. And then we can talk about, are we disappointed in Dave Dorn, or then the fans can go nuts if we underperform that year.
Yeah, there needs to be progress every year, something that you can look at and see, and that's been there. 2017, you mentioned Johnny Frazier. Y'all might not realize how good he is.
He's good. He's big. He's fast. I mean, he's a
program changer.
Yeah, he's gonna be that good. And I think 2017 is gonna be a defining year.
Yeah,
you never know how everybody else is gonna be, but for us, you can project out a little bit, and there's gonna be the talent and the depth there. That right now we rely heavily on Jacoby, right? And we rely heavily on Matt Days for those guys to not make any mistakes, and the reason is because the youth around them, and it's just not there yet in the program. But we could beat that drum all day. I think 2017 is the year that's going to define Dave Dorn.
Anything else about Wake?
No, glad we won. Glad the streak's over. I was still nervous starting that game. The one thing that really bugged me about it, and I sent out the video clip earlier this week, was Jacoby missing Trowell, just standing there, nobody within 20 yards of him, just standing there before he snaps the ball, and he never even looks. I think that's probably, if I had a complaint about this team, it's going to be surprisingly offensively. I know most people are usually pretty happy with our offense, except for a couple games. But I don't know. Any quarterback who's ever played the position will tell you that they check over the defense. Even if it's flag football, you're looking both ways. You're seeing where everybody's lining up, so you understand that. I was disappointed that they didn't hit the play, but I'm disappointed that he didn't even look or acknowledge it. I think that's kind of a microcosm of some of the bigger Jacoby issues, and that can be coached out of him, but it needs to be coached out of him. And if Dana Bible's coaching Jacoby, I think he probably sees that. And I don't know. This is purely speculation. I'm not in practice. I don't even know Matt Canada. But there's something there that says, hey, your first move every time you get to the line is check the defense. See where everybody's lined up. So, anyway, especially on a pass play. But that's very nitpicky.
All right.
But it is what it is.
Okay.
I was happy we won. But that was a little frustration there. I know some other people have noticed it as well.
Yeah. Well, on to the next one, right?
Yeah. I mean, Jacoby's only played 2.5 years, so I'll give him that. But still, I think that's, if you wanted to say why can't we score? Why can't we do some of these things? I think there's just not that sharpness in the offense and in the coaching around that we need. But again, speculation, could be wrong, but we'll see. Now that we got that over with, Wake's behind us. We got the W, got the ACC monkey off our back. We got Clemson coming up. We're bringing in our favorite Clemson Twitter guy, CU Bosco. Everybody can follow him on Twitter. But we'll take a break and come back with James, hardcore Clemson fan. Thanks. All right, folks, we're back, and we have our resident Clemson guru with us. James, how you doing?
Good. How are y'all?
Doing fantastic. As long as we can delay Saturday as long as possible, I'll be all right. First question for you, before we get it too far into this. I've gotten a lot of unprovoked trash talk from Clemson fans, who I normally think Clemson fans are awesome. Is Clemson Twitter as active as FSU Twitter? What's up with that? Why are they coming after me?
I don't know. I think that it's as the season goes on, as the delusions of grandeur increase, there's a vocal minority that I kind of view as a little bit insecure, looking for respect from not only our opponents but from the national media, and they're just kind of like their FSU Twitter counterparts, just like lashing out at everybody, looking for people to bow down to us. But like Coach Sweeney said, I mean, they're not giving any trophies out for right now, and right now we just got to survive in advance to take something out of the NC State lore, and I think we just got to survive in advance, and the respect will come. But yeah, it's been interesting since this ride has started to see the social media angst from some Clemson fans.
So you're saying you have crazy fans too? It's not just us?
Oh no! We've got our own fair share of whack jobs that I think we've also picked up a fair share here this season too.
Oh, I can imagine. After that whipping last week, the bandwagon is full and down in Clemson.
Absolutely.
All right, well, first off, I want to apologize for my dog deciding to raise hell in the middle of all that. I muted it as quick as I could. But now everyone has met Waylon Jennings, my coonhound. So,
awesome.
As an outsider looking in, do you have any thoughts on State's season so far or the program as a whole in general?
Well, I think State's a team that's obviously in a program that's on the rise. As far as this season, I was trying to figure it out, and I don't think there's any debating about those first 4 games where they were just overmatched, and then you're going to get into conference play, and quite frankly, you struggled to look really, really, really good for a quarter against Wake Forest. But it's a program on the rise, and a program that, quite frankly, as a conference, we need to be relevant. And so I think there's a lot of respect from my perspective. I respect what's going on at NC State. I think Doran was the right guy for State, and he's going to do really good things. I mean, the recruiting's gotten better. And obviously, this is a big week as far as hosting recruits, and so I think there's a lot to be excited for. I think you're, it's a process. You don't build Rome overnight, and so I think as long as State fans can continue to be patient, I think things are going to be fine there, and I think you could work yourselves into being a player in the Atlantic.
People are going to listen to this and think you were listening in on our first part of the podcast, because that's exactly what we just said. We just need to be patient, and then, in this day and age, nobody is patient, especially not when it comes to football.
No, and Clemson's in the position it's in now because, this goes back to 2008, 2009, and, you just have to go. You have to live with the good and the bad and get lucky with some recruits and, stuff like that. And, hopefully enjoy the ride, because I think Doran's a good guy. I think he fits. I don't know a lot about him, but he seems to fit the State culture and then the people, and you just got to let him do his thing.
I think you're right. I feel the same way. I'm sure Dustin does too. I think he fits here. He's just going to need time because we've sucked for so long. It's just how it is. It's unfortunate, but that's where we are, I think.
So it's kind of surprising going into this game, looking at total defense rankings. So total defense in the country, State's ranked 3rd and Clemson is 4th. And I know some of State's position there is attributed to the out of conference, but they've played pretty solidly once conference started, and we kind of know what we do defensively. But what should State fans look at or look for coming into this game out of Clemson's defense?
Much to the surprise of a lot of Clemson fans, I think our front 4 is pretty dominant and has been dominant. When you lose the guys that we lost off of last year's defense, I wasn't riding the huge drop off, but I am absolutely shocked how well they've played. I think Carlos Watkins, a guy from North Carolina, is really, really good. We've got a freshman, Christian Wilkins, who's played great. Kevin Dodd on the end, on one of the ends, and obviously Shaq Lawson is a guy that's going to get a lot of pub. This is a really disruptive defense. Ben Boulware is just a terror. Jaron Curse is probably my favorite. He's a safety, but they'll move him around. He'll blitz. He can pass coverage. He'll match up on a wide receiver, and so we're just really getting after it, and have done a really good job this year thus far of dictating to offenses, and it's been really surprising, and really I think the key to our success.
And I think Clemson's defense now is, State fans can look at that for inspiration, is what a couple of years of good recruiting can do, because back, I remember the West Virginia game, y'all's defense was terrible. And a couple of solid recruiting classes, and you got one of the top ones in the country,
Yeah, and those guys that played against West Virginia in the Orange Bowl, those guys were seniors last year.
Right.
All those guys were seniors last year, and so again, and then we also changed coordinators, but 3 years in with that was Venable's third year last year. I mean, we were pretty doggone good, but I think what's the key is just continuing to recruit. You can't have just one group. You got to have another group behind them who you're bringing along and developing, and that's something I think that our staff doesn't necessarily get as much credit for. As obviously it's not just one class. They've got guys behind them, and right now, I'd take those guys against anybody.
Going on coordinator type thing, would this team be any different if Chad Morris was still there? I thought there would be a big drop-off, but it seemed to just kind of stay where it was at offensively.
Well, the big thing that Coach Sweeney said all along was that the offense was a Clemson offense. And obviously Tony Elliott and Jeff Scott have put their stamp on it, but I am surprised, but I'm not surprised because those are guys that are really smart and really talented, and we've got good pieces. I think that's the biggest thing, is that when you've got Deshaun Watson at quarterback, it's hard to screw that up. And they've done a good job of keeping him upright and healthy. And right now, I think what's the biggest difference is they're a little bit more patient. I think you saw that in our last two games. To go throw for 400 against BC and then run for 400 against Miami. They're really big and they really preach, taking what the defense gives you. And I don't always. I felt like at points, Coach Morris would get a little impatient. But again, the whole thing changes when you have a guy like Deshaun Watson as your quarterback and his surrounding cast.
Has Watson lived up to what Clemson fans expected of him before the year?
No, I don't think people. I think people. Well, I'll say. Let me back up. Early on in the season, definitely no, but I think people go and they go back from last year and they think about last year and they think about the North Carolina game where I think he threw 6 touchdown passes and made it look really, really easy, and they thought that was going to be the norm. Well, you and I could have thrown 2 or 3 touchdown passes against that North Carolina defense last year. I think he just came in with some unrealistic expectations, and then you combine that with a coaching offensive staff that's just like, okay, well, early on in the season, a lot of teams played a lot of cover 2. They were not going to let us throw the deep ball on them, and they're going to make us, execute down the field. So he wasn't going to go put up some, crazy numbers. And then BC happened, last week happened, but I mean, then at the same time last week, I mean, he broke off that 60-yard run, so I think Clemson people just need to chill and let's just keep winning ball games, and let's just see where, as far as the national recognition and the national awards, that'll come. But if not, and we're still winning, who cares?
I mean, so you brought up BC, and that's one of the things that's kind of, I don't know, I guess confused me about this Clemson team, right? They come out and they beat Louisville, beat Notre Dame, beat Georgia Tech convincingly. Then they give up 17 points to Boston College, who hasn't been able to score on the School of the Blind. How does that happen?
Well, we had some turnovers. Gave up 10 points off of turnovers against that game and against BC, and gave them 2 short fields, and they were able to take advantage of it. And then late in the ball game, with our backups in, we misfit a run, and they were able to bust a long run, and then they scored on a 4th and goal with, I don't know, 2 minutes left, maybe less than a minute left. So that was more from a Clemson perspective. We gifted them that, but they were able to take advantage of some of our mistakes.
So speaking of mistakes, what's the biggest weakness of this Clemson team? And are you worried about that on Saturday?
Biggest weakness is stupid turnovers. And absolutely, that's how State stays in the ball game on Saturday, in my opinion. If we start turning it over, that changes the game. And just like back in 2011, I think we turned the ball over 3 times in the red zone, and State was able to turn each one of those into touchdown, 21 points. So, I mean, you go and do that, then, I mean, what I'm sitting here talking about all goes out the window. And so we've got to protect the ball in that environment where, the crowd and this, obviously we're going to get State's best shot this week.
I think you made a good point there, but if you want me to make you feel better, State has forced 12 fumbles this year, and they've recovered 2 of them, and we only have 2 interceptions, maybe even 1, but I think it's 2. So if that makes you feel any better, the ball is not bouncing our way this year, so it's going to be okay with
the
turnovers, I think.
I hope we can just not turn the ball over at all, but I think that's the equalizer. Also, what I saw y'all have the kicking game. Our kicking game has been kind of suspect at times. Our kick coverage, punt coverage. People have been able to get some yards on us at times. So I think that's something to look for. Field position on Saturday will definitely be huge.
I think that probably the one thing that plays to our advantage there is we have pretty good returners and we've got pretty good coverage for the most part. Now, kicking it through the uprights is a little tricky, and we haven't mastered that quite yet. But I think the rest of the special teams, I think we're doing pretty well so far.
Good.
Yeah.
Kind of playing off of that, what would you say is the biggest strength that State fans need to dread this weekend?
We can throw it and pass it, I think, with the best of them. I mean, you just kind of pick your poison with this football team. If you want to drop back in coverage, well, we're gonna run it. If you want to shut down the run and play man to man, we have the athletes to throw over the top, and our defense is up to this point has been borderline dominant, and so from that perspective, I think that's where forcing a turnover or some type of big play in the passing game or just hitting a big play is going to be really key in this in the matchup on Saturday afternoon.
So before we dive into your prediction for this game, I've got one random question. Are y'all going to miss Steve Spurrier, or are you glad he's gone?
Oh, I can't speak for the whole fan base, but for myself, I'm gonna miss him because he's such a character, and he brought a lot to the. He changed the rivalry, and one that we quite frankly have dominated, and then I don't know how, but and they got good, and you have to give them credit, but they've turned the rivalry on its head with winning 5 in a row, but he's a character, and he's a guy that gave the rivalry something that it hadn't had, and so it'll be different. It'll be interesting to see who they get. I doubt he's as mouthy and ornery as the old ball coach, but yeah, I mean just from as a college football fan, you hate how that ended, but I'm looking forward to kicking them while they're down.
It sounds like me in Carolina. Kick them while they're down.
So.
I do have a question I meant to ask you about Deshaun Watson.
Okay.
Where do you rank Deshaun Watson in the hierarchy of Clemson pain in my asses between like Taj Boyd, Woody Dantzler, and the other quarterbacks who have just run all over us?
Ugh. I had a conversation about this with somebody, and I still think the sample size is a little too small to go to I think physically he is obviously more gifted than Taj Boyd, but he's not. Obviously he doesn't have the same results as Taj Boyd has had, and I'm not sure if he'll be around long enough to put up the numbers that Boyd did. But he's good, and if he has a good day on Saturday, he'll make you pull your hair out.
Yeah, I do remember that last year, so no surprise.
So he's special, and we're lucky, and Clemson people need to enjoy him however long we end up having him, because I think he's a once in a generation type talent. He can run it, throw it, and he's a good person, and just fun to watch. So
I agree. I've been following Clemson and just AC in general, and I honestly before the year I wasn't thinking that Clemson was going to be this good, and mainly because of him. But he's really taken control of it, and he's got Clemson just playing extremely well. And at first, after the Boston College game, I was like, oh, maybe we have a chance. And then they go and destroy Miami 58-0. And I'm like, oh, shit, we're going to get blown out. So I don't know where I stand right now. I'm just more impressed than I was expecting in the beginning of the year. So what's your prediction for this game? What's going to happen Saturday?
I think we're going to have – well, first of all, I think the key for Clemson is going to be surviving the first quarter. I think I fully expect State to come out with its hair on fire. I expect Doran, especially on offense, to throw the kitchen sink at us, and if we can survive that initial brunt and be even, be up a field goal, be up 7, I just think our depth and our talent, we're ahead of State at this point, and I think that's the difference in the ball game, all things being equal, and we're not turning the ball over and everything. And I'm looking at a 45-17 type deal, but that all goes out the door if we start turning the ball over, or if you all hit a trick play, or something crazy happens early on, then it's game on, and anything can happen, because we kind of saw that in Atlanta last week.
Yeah, I'm with you. I feel I've had 38-17 in my head all week. Before the year, I was like, Halloween, Clemson's not as good. It's going to be crazy. And I was like, oh, we're going to win this game. I'm not so confident anymore. Dustin, what do you think about this one?
I'm not that. I'm not going to say we're going to win the game, but I don't see it being that far apart at all. I'd see like a 35-28, something like that.
But what are you all going to do that?
Well, I think the first 4 games of the year out of conference, we were very conservative on offense. We kept that up the first 2 games in conference. Jacoby had good, somewhat good numbers, not mind-blowing, but it was very consistent. But to get that, there were a lot of dump-offs, a lot of short passes. Last week, we come out, open up the playbook a little bit, and I think that was what got us those 2 losses. I think we're better on offense that we showed the first 2 conference games. I get the Clemson's defense is outrageous. I think we just get a couple or enough good plays in the first quarter, especially to set a tone for the game that it's not going to be a blowout. I think, honestly, the crowd in Raleigh is really underrated, and I think they play big games well when they're at home. Probably 3-4 years ago, y'all came in ranked and we were unranked. I think that was your last unranked loss.
Yeah, lost back in 2011.
Yeah, we play you a lot better when we're at home than we do on the road. You destroy us down there, but I think we keep it close. I really do.
Okay.
I want revenge for the Brian Underwood call.
Oh,
was that 2 years ago?
I was there 2 years ago, and woo! That's all I say.
Yeah.
Somebody was not happy. Somebody in Greensboro was not happy with you all that night.
Oh, seriously.
No, yeah.
That's pretty much every weekend, so don't be surprised.
If you were looking at it from a neutral standpoint, was he in or out?
Oh, he was in. It was close, but I thought he was in.
TA was in too for the state fans, so we're used to getting.
I don't want to talk about TA McClendon. Let's not ever talk about him ever again, please.
God, he was a beast.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to read real quick what Bleacher Report says about this game. It says, the smart pick. The Tigers are riding high after last week's blowout, while North Carolina State is quietly putting together a pretty good team in itself. And this is the Wolfpack's chance at a signature victory for head coach Dave Doran. Clemson quarterback Deshaun Watson will be a handful, but the smart choice here is with the homecoming underdog. I thought that was kind of a bold prediction there. I think they're just talking about the point spread, but still.
I wouldn't bet the spread, though.
Hell no.
I mean, it speaks to I think with Clemson, and the thing that's been the biggest thing about the change is the culture and the way that Coach Sweeney has. I mean, you don't win 35 or 34 straight games against unranked opponents because you're up and down like the stock market in your performance. And so I would be really disappointed if we just went up there and just laid an egg.
Yeah, and I don't expect that at all. Yeah.
I obviously, it seems from what I've read, Coach Doran and the staff has circled this one, but I just honestly at this point at this juncture, I just think we're better, and
yeah,
I think that we're better. I like Brissett. I really do like Brissett. Or Brissett. I don't know how y'all. He's really, really talented and does a really good job. He's efficient. Days has done a really good job, but I just, and the defense, I think in the future is going to be really, really good. But I don't know if you're there yet. And I like what we have more than what you have, and all things being equal.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's no argument here. I think you guys are just a step ahead of us. Where does Clemson go? Where does their season go from here?
If we can get out of there with a win, obviously, got a big matchup with Florida State comes to Clemson next Saturday, and that's going to be huge, regardless of what happened to them last week, because they've been the bane of our existence for the last few years, and so I think if we win Saturday in Raleigh and beat Florida State, I think we'll wrap up a trip to at the minimum to Charlotte, but hopefully we can run the table, and if we can run the table and win in Charlotte, then we just got to sit back and cross our fingers.
So I think what you're saying is that we had a nice little three-way going here. We were paying Florida State. Florida State was a pain in your ass, and you were a pain in our ass. And then Louisville has to come in the mix, and they get try to think like they're important, right? I mean, I think that's what we're saying.
Yeah, but I mean, basically.
Yeah, nobody wants Louisville around anymore.
The new Maryland.
That's right.
You know what? That's a great call. They really kind of are.
Yeah. Nobody likes them. They're arrogant as hell, and they win games that screw everyone else over. So
That's
nailed
awesome.
yeah, nobody cares about them. So I came for basketball.
One last question for you: do you know the origin of the name Dabo?
Yes.
I just found this out. I thought it was fascinating.
His little brother couldn't say called him Dat Boy, and couldn't say Dat Boy, so it came out Dabo because his name is. And so I guess it stuck because his name is William Christopher. And so
I thought his name was Dabo.
no, I mean he's from Alabama, but come on. Yeah, it's William Christopher, but somehow that Dabo stuck, and so yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I thought it was wild. I thought our people would enjoy that one.
Yeah.
James, thanks for taking your time to join us. We appreciate the perspective, and maybe your perspective as an outsider will help ease some of the pain that our crazy fans are thinking. What's wrong with us? But
no, there's nothing wrong with State. It's just it's a process. It really is a process. Nobody likes to hear that, but I mean, but you got a defensive I don't know how much you all follow recruiting, but you got a defensive tackle that I know we're after. It's a local guy that's going to be there that it's not able to get around the country very much, that a lot of people in our camp think is going to end up at State, a 5-star defensive tackle. And if you get one, you get two, you get him, you've already got Roseboro in there, and you start getting some other guys, and, kind of like us, a couple years from now, you keep continuity. I mean, you can put together a special season or two, and that's what I see is happening there. And quite frankly, as a conference from a national perspective, we need that. We need it. We need to get that from anywhere we can get it. So,
I agree, and I think that's what we said earlier. Is that in a few years we'll really know where this program's heading. And it's because of that. It's because we have Roseboro. We brought in Kentavia Street, and then if all signs keep pointing towards Dexter Lawrence joining us, we had 3 5-stars on our defensive line. It's unheard of for us. And that's Clemson like, and that's what we're trying to get to, I think. So.
Yeah, I mean, and we're chasing Florida State, and
yep.
I think Jimbo said it's. I mean, he wants grown-ass men on his defensive line, and along the lines of scrimmage, and that I think that's what really is where Clemson, especially on the offensive line this year. I mean, we've been really good on the offensive line, where we've kind of been smoke and mirrors the last few years, and so. We'll just see what happens. But, yeah, stay the course. So you don't want to be starting over. And you don't want to be in a situation that Miami's in, firing a coach and then having to start over all over again. I mean, that's a tough – I mean, you're moving in the right direction, don't go pull the trigger on somebody and then have to start from scratch with the new guy. And then when you do that, you start the clock back over.
Yeah, I agree. I think Miami should go hire The Rock, and we don't have The Rock waiting for us, so I'm not sure what we would do. But just imagine The Rock running the Miami football program. That would be awesome.
It would be a disaster.
It would be so good.
Disaster.
Only Miami would pull that off, too. They would figure out a way to hire him as their coach. I know they would.
He'd recruit, but there's no coaching there. Come on.
Oh, my God.
It's a pipe dream, a bad one.
Yeah. All right, Joe. Everybody go follow James on Twitter at CUBosco. Tell him what's up. Tell him you like the podcast. We'd love to have you back, and we appreciate your time as always, man.
All right, man. Thanks for having me.
Yep. Take it easy.
All right, take care. See ya.